Katy's Magic Glasses by Jane Goodsell, illustrated by Barbara Cooney. Copyright 1965 by Jane Goodsell. I'd like to say that Katy Blair had snowy skin and golden hair, a rosebud mouth and eyes of blue, as girls in fairy stories do. I'd tell you, if I only could, that she was always very good, demure, obedient, and sweet, never messy, always neat. But Katy wasn't like that a bit. In fact, she was just the opposite. And that's not strange because she wasn't a princess in a fairy tale. She was a real, honest-to-goodness 5-year-old girl. What was she like? Well, truthfully, she almost always had one skinned knee. Her nose was freckled, her light brown hair was straight and straggly, but she didn't care. She had a funny pixie grin, 'cause her 2 front teeth were halfway in. For a 5-year-old, she was pretty smart. She knew the flag salute by heart. She could empty her bank and count her money. She could wiggle her nose just like a bunny. She knew the alphabet perfectly, all the way from A to Z. But she certainly wasn't as good as gold. She acted like a 5-year-old, sometimes good and sometimes bad, sometimes happy, sometimes mad, sometimes quiet, thoughtful, dreamy, sometimes very loud and screamy, full of giggles, full of squeals, and always hungry except at meals. Sometimes shy and sometimes bold, like most any 5-year-old. There was just one very unusual thing about her, and that's why she's in this book. Her eyes were big and brown and bright, but Katy's eyes didn't see things right. When she looked at something far away, like a kite in the sky on a sunny day, she saw it like this, all blurred and queer. Not like this, sharp and clear. When she looked at the face of the kitchen clock or the faces of children down the block, this is how they looked to her, just a fuzzy sort of blur. Sometimes Katy wouldn't greet friends who were walking down the street. She couldn't see their faces, so she wouldn't wave or call hello, and that explains the reason why people sometimes thought her shy. She couldn't see the robin's nest in the apple tree either, the day her brother Tim called her to look at it. "There it is," directed Tim, pointing up to a topmost limb. Katy looked and supposed that she saw something up in the apple tree, and though she couldn't be sure, she guessed that what she saw wasn't the robin's nest. "Sure, I see it," she said to Tim, for she certainly wouldn't want to admit him that there was anything that she couldn't do as well as he. But Katy'd have had a big surprise if she'd seen the nest through her brother's eyes. See how clear it looked to Tim. See it there on the topmost limb? And Tim would have been surprised to see through Katy's eyes, all blurrily. Here's how the bird's nest looked to her. See it? Just a smudgy blur. One day, Katy and Tim and their mother and father went to a circus. It was a great big 3-ring circus. Here's a picture of it. Look at all the dazzling things going on in the 3 big rings. Watch the girl hang by her knees, up in the air on the high trapeze. See the juggler juggling balls and the red-nosed clown in overalls. Watch the acrobats do their flips and the lion tamer crack his whips. Watch lions jump through hoops of fire and look at the man on the high tight wire. See the monkeys' spangled pants and the little hats on the elephants. That's how the circus looked to most of the people who were there. Katy's mother and father saw everything clearly, just the way it looks in the picture. Tim did too, but not Katy. Through her eyes, the circus looked very different. Blurry, isn't it? Nobody, not even Katy's mother, knew how smudgy and fuzzy everything looked to Katy, and Katy didn't know how sharp and clear things looked to other people. Katy didn't find out that there was anything wrong with her eyes until she was almost 6 years old and ready to start 1st grade. Then one day, one bright and sunny summer day, when she came in for lunch from play, her mother said, "Katy, you're a mess. Take a bath and change your dress. We're going to see the Dr. Smith today." "What for?" asked Katy. "I'm okay." "Of course," said her mother, "but darling, you'll be starting off to school, and it's a good idea for you to have a checkup before you do." Katy didn't want to get a checkup. She wanted to stay home and play hopscotch. But once she got to the doctor's office, she didn't really mind. She liked Dr. Smith. She knew a lot of jokes, and he had a pocket full of balloons. He blew up a red one and gave it to her. Then he told her to climb up on the table. He thumped her on the back and chest. He pricked her arm for a blood test. He felt her pulse and tapped her knees and asked her to stick her tongue out, please. He poked down her throat with a little stick. He listened to her heart go tick. He weighed and measured her on the scales. He even looked at her fingernails. Then he whistled admiringly. You're healthy, he said, as a girl can be. And now let's test your big brown eyes to see if you can recognize the letters of the alphabet. Do you know the names of the letters yet? Sure, said Katy. Of course I do. I know the alphabet clear through. Except, she admitted truthfully, I sometimes mix up R and P. She followed the doctor to the hall, and he rolled down a chart on the farthest wall. Okay, Katy, go ahead. Start at the top of the chart, he said. Katy was ready and set to start, but when she looked at the doctor's chart, the only letter she could see was the very top one, a great big E. All the rest were blurry spots and little teeny tiny dots that looked so far away and small she couldn't read them, not at all. She couldn't, no matter how hard she tried, and she felt so awful she nearly cried. But she wanted so much to do her best that what do you think she did? She guessed. Of course she guessed all wrong. She said L, S, B, T, Z, and N, and that wasn't right at all. Katy herself knew all along that she was guessing the letters wrong. She felt just awful. She knew she'd failed. I can't see the letters at all, she wailed. Oh, said the doctor cheerfully. Is the chart too far away to see? Why don't you move up closer then? Get close as you like, then try again. When Katy took 3 steps forward, she could see the two top lines, but she had to take 6 more steps before she could see the whole chart. Then all of a sudden, the letters looked sharp and clear and black. She read the letters perfectly, even the hard ones, R and P. The doctor chuckled. I declare, you're bright as a button, Katy Blair. But something extra bright like you needs eyes as bright as buttons, too. How, he asked, would you like a pair of glasses of your own to wear to give you extra perfect sight to see things exactly right? Glasses, thought Katy. There's some mistake. She didn't want glasses, for heaven's sake. She stared at the doctor in dismay. She couldn't think of a thing to say. Hey, said the doctor, why so tragic? Listen, Katy, you'll see magic through these glasses, and I think that you will see strike you pink. Magic, gasped Katy. Honestly? The doctor smiled. Just wait and see. But Katy didn't anticipate having to wait. And wait. And wait. The next day, she had to go to another doctor, a special eye doctor. She had to read more alphabet charts, looking through a big machine. It didn't hurt, not a bit, but it took a long time. Anyway, it seemed like a long time, and Katy got pretty wiggly. She couldn't help it. Then she had to go to another place where she tried on frames for her glasses. Her mother helped her choose bright red ones like this. Her mother said they were very cute and becoming, and Katy giggled when she looked at herself in the mirror. But when Katy found out that it would take 5 days to make her glasses, she was puzzled. Who ever heard of magic taking such a long time? You'll see magic, the doctor had said, but in all the fairy tales she'd read, magic happened instantly, faster than you could count to 3. Magic glasses couldn't take practically a week to make. She'd have had them in nothing flat. Hocus pocus, just like that. Pooh, she thought, disgustedly. Plain old glasses, that's all they'll be. Then one night, Katy wandered into the den and saw her father's glasses. That gave her an idea. There were the glasses on the shelf. Why not try them on herself? She thought that maybe, perhaps, they might give her the extra perfect sight the doctor had promised glasses would. Of course, she didn't believe they could, but maybe, just maybe, it might be true. So Katy tried them on, and woof! Her father's glasses were much too strong, but Katy didn't know what was wrong. Certainly something was the matter. Everything seemed to be coming at her, all jumbled like a crazy quilt. The floor seemed to slant at a funny tilt. She felt kind of dizzy, almost sick. She took off the glasses and muttered, "Ick!" If that's what glasses were like, then she wouldn't wear them. No siree. Now she hoped that she would never get her glasses, but 2 days later, she did. She found them lying on her bed in a bright blue case when she went upstairs to look for her roller skate key. She sighed when she saw them. She didn't want to try them. Not a bit. She'd hate them. She was sure of it. She wrinkled her nose and made a face as she took the glasses from the case, and very, very reluctantly, she put them on and gasped. "Oh, gee!" Katy could hardly believe her eyes. She stared and stared in stunned surprise. She could see magic. She really could, just as the doctor said she would. What was the magic Katy saw that made her eyes grow round with awe? Did she see a prince in a magic cloak, a bright green dragon breathing smoke, a golden coach, an elf, a fairy? No, nothing that extraordinary. What Katy saw were familiar things. Kids out the window, on playground swings, a ladybug crawling on the floor, the doorknob on her bedroom door, a bright new penny, the kitchen clock, the paper boy coming down the block. She'd seen all this before, it's true, but now it looked all bright and new. Remember the way she used to see, how dim and blurred things used to be? The minute she put her glasses on, hocus pocus, the blur was gone. All of a sudden she could see, absolutely, perfectly. She could tell who the kids were down the block. She could see the numbers on the clock. And, though he was half a block away, she saw the paper boy plain as day. She could see the bandage on his thumb. She could tell he was chewing bubble gum. The glasses worked so perfectly, there wasn't anything she couldn't see. She saw a kite up in the sky, flying way, way, way up high. She spotted a penny on the ground, and the first 4-leaf clover she'd ever found. This is the end of the story. Of course, if it were a fairy tale, it wouldn't end here. You know what would happen next, don't you? Katy's magic glasses would transform her into a perfect little girl with perfect manners who lived happily ever after. But this isn't a fairy tale, and Katy went right on being Katy. Sometimes happy, sometimes mad, sometimes good and sometimes bad. Sometimes quiet, thoughtful, dreamy, sometimes very loud and screamy, full of giggles, full of squeals, and always hungry except at meals. There was just one thing that was very, very different about her. Now that she wrote magic glasses with bright frames, her eyes were big and brown and bright, and she saw everything just right. The end.